Now Ryan's got his AR-10 and he's got the Alpine Apex 4.5 by 27. Now he also has the sunshade and the honeycomb on it, and it comes with the scope. And what it does is it filters out all this sunlight that we're dealing with here today. So again, your gun would already be bore sighted like this one is. Take the first shot and then we'll show you how to make the adjustments after that shot. All right, so as I said, the next step was to bring the crosshairs down to the bullet. But before we do that, we're gonna take the caps off and we're gonna pull the turrets off, okay? And there's 3 set screws in there that we're gonna loosen up. We're gonna go ahead and make those adjustments, get everything sighted in, and when we finalize the sight in, we're gonna tighten those set screws, put the turret back so we have a 0 position on it, and then we'll put the caps back on and we're good to go. The next step now is Ryan's gonna hold the bullseye on the red dot, and I'm gonna make adjustments to bring the crosshairs down and over to the bullet. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Pretty close, aren't we?
Yeah, just hair to the
right. I gotta go to the left. It's gotta go left, right? Or not? Yeah, I got to go to the left. Are you on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is right.
Good.
And I got to go down just a little.
Yeah. Other way.
Other way.
Just the side of that red, but I pulled.
So we can pretty much assume that we're on, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the red.
All right, that's all it takes. 3 shots, and we're in the red. Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpine Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars. Now they're lighter than the older Shasta Ridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars. You know, here we are midsummer here in Iowa, and I'm just out doing some scouting, glassing deer, kind of taking an inventory of what I've got, and doing it from a distance. I've got one of the new Alpine spotting scopes. It's a 20 by 60, but one of the things I really like about this, it comes with a tripod, and it's got micro adjustments, so it's real easy to zoom in and move around and find those animals. But basically, this is a great tool to help me manage the farm all year round. If you're looking for a great way to do some scouting, do it in the evening from a distance with a nice spotting scope.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. I'm your host, Rick White, and tonight's special guest comes all the way from Kentucky, Mr. Mike McDonald. And yes, we have a great special at the end of the show, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with you.
And welcome back to On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. Our host, Rick White, and Mike McDonald. How you doing today, Rick? Rick, are you there?
Yes, yes. You threw me off guard. Are you alive? You didn't give me a countdown. What's the deal?
I guess you didn't hear it.
No, I had no countdown. Well, anyway, all right, let me jump right in then. Welcome back. And you're watching On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. Now, we've got a great show planned for you this evening because we're going to talk about one of the most important things that I think that I talk about when I travel the United States and do seminars, and that's safety. Primarily tree stand safety, but safety in the deer woods as well. And tonight's special guest is not only a good friend of mine, but one of our fellow pro staff members, Mike McDonald, all the way from E-Town, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I've been out in the woods all day and doing some scouting, and you know what we all got on our minds right now, and it's these right here. It's that velvet antlers.
Is that right?
You know, Kentucky's one of the places you can get the velvet buck, so we're all out there doing some scouting right now, and this is one I killed a couple of years ago. Not the biggest deer I ever killed, but it was a velvet buck, so you know, he's gonna go on the wall.
So what's going on right now in your neck of the woods? I mean, you know, deer season's around the corner. You still doing a little fishing? You putting out trail cams? What are you doing?
Well, we're still doing a little bit of fishing, not much. Fishing's pretty much wrapped up. Mostly just running trail cams, you know, putting them breaster cameras out. We're getting them all over the place. We're getting some really good pictures. This year's weird here in Kentucky. I don't know about in Iowa, but right now I've got more bucks on my farm than I have does. And I'm talking maybe 15 or 20 different bucks, but they're not patternable. I mean, I'm getting them on 300-acre farm, every single square inch of it, miles across it. It's like, usually this time of year, it's summer pattern, tight space. So it's racking my brain trying to get it all together. But, you know, that's what the cameras are for. I'm placing them at different spots and figuring out where they're starting from and where they're going to. And it's going to help me be successful come September the 5th.
Well, that's great. You know, we're running live here on Facebook, and I want to give a shout out. I'm looking at my phone, and we've got Jordan Dean and Phil Smith, John Dallas, and Steve Harnden, Michael DiGiovanni. They're all on the show watching right now, and we'll have some others. And folks, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to send us a question, and we'll try to answer it the best we can. So Mike, you've got some deer hunts in the near future scheduled, I think. And an elk hunt. I think you're taking somebody or going on an elk hunt. What do you got going on?
Yeah, so my buddy, a real good friend of mine, he's also a veterinarian. I've known him for probably 20 years. He actually got drawn for Kentucky coveted rifle bull tag right in the heat of the rut, September 25th through the 29th in Eastern Kentucky. And I don't know if you've been in the hills, which you've been in the hills of Eastern Kentucky, and it's beautiful in the Appalachian Mountains. You know, we're not all hillbillies just because we're from Kentucky, but when you get over there, you know, some of those people are considered hillbillies. But we got an elk hunt planned. That's the 3rd week of September. I can't wait. We went and did some scouting for it. I actually wished I would have sent it to you, but I actually seen my first timber rattlesnake. 30 years of traveling, you know, all around the country, from Colorado, Utah, Texas, Florida, Georgia. Never seen a rattlesnake. And last weekend, I seen my first timber rattler here in my home state of Kentucky. And it was pretty special to me. I know it's not special to a lot of people, but, you know, I just wanted to know how mean and aggressive they were. And it was very docile, not very active. So made me feel a little bit better about walking through them tall weeds.
I've had so many run-ins with snakes over the years, and lots of rattlesnakes and lots of snakes in general. And I came up on a pretty good rattlesnake down in Oklahoma one year, and I've got some fantastic photos, and I'll have to send those in for a future show, and we'll share some of those because there's some really good ones. Mike, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I feel, and I know you feel, is one of the most important things when comes to hunting, period. Just anything you're hunting, if you don't have some type of knowledge of safety, and you know, all kids to a certain age now have to take some type of hunter safety course. And even though I didn't need to when I was younger, because back then they didn't force you to, but my dad made me take it anyway. So I took a class, and I'm glad I did, because it instilled a lot of safety aspects for me that I've been able to pass on to my kids and other people that I take hunting with me. And it's amazing how many silly things when I'm out hunting that I see. You know, the biggest thing when I'm taking a gun hunter is how many times they actually point their gun at me when they're walking, even though you've told them not to. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about safety tonight, and I want to concentrate a little bit more on like tree stand safety, and we can talk about all kinds of safety. Now, I know you like to use tree stands, and you like climbers. And you know, I'm a lock-on guy. I like my ladders and a lock-on stand. But let's touch a little bit, and I've made some notes here, but let's touch a little bit on some safety, and I'll let you take it from there and talk a little bit about. I know you like climbers, so let's talk about climbers.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to throw this out there because I always like to take quick jabs at Rick. The only straight piece of wood in Iowa is a toothpick, and they do have good steaks, so they have a few of them. However, Rick, as you said, you use a lot of lock-ons. The reason that Rick uses a lot of lock-ons, they have a lot of maple trees that grow just crazy wild, so there's not a lot of climbing trees. Now, there are hardwood trees there, but the woods are not as dense as some of us would have in the eastern part of the United States. When you get out west, it's more open woods, a lot of underbrush, and it's a lot harder to pick that perfect round tree to get up to that height you want. And I really never used lock-ons until I started hunting with Rick and realized, you know, how efficient, how quiet, and just being able to get to that spot and climb up and not having to cling clang and bing bang, it definitely helps. But coming from here, being a good old Kentucky boy, and I hunt a lot of public ground, which is Fort Knox. I hate to say it, but Fort Knox in Kentucky, we kill some booners over here, buddy. But there, they won't let you use anything that screws into a tree. They want you to use climbing stands. And that number one thing with that climbing stand is that hunter safety system. And even on Knox, it is required. They require to hunt there that you wear a safety hunter vest or some type. It doesn't have to be a hunter safety system, but you have to have on a safety strap, be in the tree, or, you know, you'll get in trouble. Which, you know, it's for Fort Knox is federal property, so it's regulated through the federal government, and they want you to be safe at all times. So one thing that I did want to say that I had never used, I always used just a strap around the tree on my climbing, and I would lift it and climb up in my tree stand, which is perfectly fine. And then when I would get settled, I would tighten it up low where I could stand up, draw my bow. Rick uses safety lines. Now, you could use safety lines in a lot of situations. Obviously, you're not going to climb up in a tree and tie it off if you're only climbing in that tree one time. But if you hunt the same tree over and over, I highly recommend putting a safety line in the tree so you can just clip to it and slide it up as you go. And Rick uses them on every stand that we hunt, and most of them are doubles. So you could talk about that.
Yeah. So what Mike's referring to, and listen, there are a lot of different hunting, you know, tree restraints out there. I choose, and I've worn them for years, is a hunter safety system. So if you're looking to go buy one, there's a lot of good ones, but I believe that hunter safety system makes the best one. They also make an item called a lifeline. Okay. And that's what Mike's talking about. And basically what it is it's a long line. I think they're 30 feet. And I think you can get them longer, but you tie it off, you climb up into your stand, you tie it off above your stand, and then you tie it off at the bottom of the tree. And it has a sliding knot on it with a carabiner clip. So when you're on the ground, you just hook it into your hunter safety system. And as you climb, you just tether it up with you. So it doesn't matter if you fall off 3 feet off the ground, 10 feet off the ground, 20 feet off the ground, you're not going to fall to the ground. Okay. And then when you get into your tree stand, you just stay hooked up to it. So it's your hookup when you're in the tree as well. And, you know, let me just go back a step. When I started hunting many years ago, we didn't have any type of hunting restraint. And I hunted without any kind of hunting restraint for years. And I did fall out of my tree one time. I was actually climbing down. Now, most people fall out of their stands when climbing up or climbing down or getting into their stand or getting out. But sometimes stands fail. So anyways, lifeline, hunter safety system, and at least you won't fall to the ground, okay? But the first thing I'd recommend with any tree stand, you know, so let's just pretend you're a new hunter to the woods and you're going out and you're buying your first tree stand, or maybe you haven't been hunting very long and you don't have a real good understanding of tree stands. You know, the first thing I'd recommend is just read the owner's manual that comes with it. I mean, you know, it sounds silly, you know, wow, it's an owner's manual. The tree stand, you know, works this way. There is some very good things in the owner's manuals that'll tell you what to look for as your tree stand stays out, weather and ages and that kind of thing. So talking about aging tree stands, Mike, let's talk a little bit about, I check my stands every year, and I'm checking out the straps and the cables and the chains and the nuts and the bolts. You know, and a lot of the cable type stands, you know, have a plastic coating on them. But what you really want to look for is where it comes out of that plastic coating and actually gets attached to the stand, to the base and to the up to the frame of the stand, is that they're not rusty. Okay, that's the big thing, making sure that they're not rusty. And if they are, it's time to change them. And all you need to do is call the manufacturer of the stand. And most all of them that I know of have replacement parts. And I would make sure you're doing that. Nuts and bolts, make sure they're tight, that they're working. Straps, you know, straps don't last forever. And I hate to say it, I'm one of those guys that, you know, once in a while leaves my stands up, and I would not recommend this. I would take your stands down every year and put them up the following year. But if you're going to leave them up, maybe put new straps on them, or just make sure that everything is sound. I mean, Mike, what can you add to that?
Well, one thing I want to add to it is some things that we didn't talk about. One of the things that I've noticed in my 25 years of hunting in tree stands, I'm only 40, so, you know, for 15 years, I was on the ground a lot. But when I started hunting tree stands, the first things that I noticed, one, I said, it could never happen to me. I'm the safest person. Accidents don't happen, they're caused. So that was my motto. So it was like, safety, be careful, watch what you're doing. I almost fell out of a tree stand one day. My foot got caught and I fell backwards. And I'm sure there's people out there that's done this. And this was back before a hunter safety system. And it was actually the reason that I purchased a hunter safety system. And it was probably in about 2000 and I'm going to say 6 or 7. And I was at my buddy's grandmother's over in Indiana, hunted the same tree I've hunted forever. And that thing come off, buddy. And whenever I reached to grab that stand, it pulled off the tree. And I promise you, I went home and changed my pants because my legs were wet. It scared me like no other. So I got that strap and I wear it every single time I hunt. Every time I go out, it's on me. One thing that I want to say is, you know, your tree stands being not so much my climbing stand, because I take it out of my truck and take it with me. But when you're in a lock-on or a climber, you've got that frost to deal with on it, which is going to make it slick. If it rained, it could be icy. You know, a lot of people, it's opening day, and a lot of gun hunters, they climb up in their tree stand, and that's when accidents happen. Because you're excited, you're not really thinking, you're not thinking straight. What you're thinking about is what's getting ready to come walking through the woods. So we forget about things. And then one small thing I'm going to add to that, we have a well-known hunter here in Kentucky. I'm not going to mention his name. He's been on TV multiple times with high-end TV shows on the Outdoor Channel. Great hunter, killed booners. And a couple of years ago, he made the mistake of going to hang a tree stand. And I believe it was a lock-on. I'm not for sure. And I think the cable may have broken. And he fell about 25 feet on top of a down tree. And he was in a wheelchair for a long time and a lot of rehab. And now I think he mostly hunts out of ground blinds just because he's not physically able. So that's what we're trying to prevent and make people more aware so that they don't have to. And that wasn't even the worst of it. I mean, think how his wife felt. She probably felt terrible. It's a burden on everyone. So let's just all do it, you know?
I wanted to say, I for some reason I thought I was older than you, but you said you were 40, so I don't know.
You're 63, ain't you?
So, okay. So, you know, I would recommend people go out and put your stand up maybe 2 or 3 feet off the ground and practice doing that so that you know now, if you've been doing this for years, maybe that's not something you have to do, but if you're kind of new to it and you want to know how your stands go up and what they're going to feel like when you get them up in the tree, so you know how you want it setting, so you get up there and you're not going, oh gosh, I'm leaning way forward or off to the side, you know, stick them up 2 or 3 feet off the ground. And if, you know, you're comfortable then and you can jump up and down on it and do whatever you want and kind of test it out. That's something I recommend. And, you know, you mentioned the trees and we've got a lot of oaks and maples, but, you know, common sense, just look for a healthy tree. Don't hang your stands on dead trees or trees that have, you know, big holes in them, and, you know, just use your common sense there. And sometimes they say common sense isn't as common as it should be, but and then when you're hanging your stands, I always recommend somebody go with you, someone help you. I mean, I do, even if the person isn't someone that can climb up and help, at least at the bottom of the tree, you can drop your pull-up rope and they can tie stuff off to it, so you're not climbing up and down and putting undue, you know, stress and taking a lot of energy out of yourself. So you've got it, because it's not always easy hanging 20 feet off the ground, leaning out and hanging stands. And when you're hanging stands, you know, we talked about the lifeline and the hunter safety system when we're climbing up and down out of the trees, but also use those restraints when you're hanging stands. Probably even more important, because you know, you've got things in your hands and you're moving around and you're trying to hold this and that, and so it helps, it aids tremendously. You know, and then Mike, you should always let people know where you're going hunting. First of all, let them know you're going hunting, so when you know, someone comes home and you're not there, they have an idea where you're at. But also give them an idea of where you're hunting. If you've got 3 or 4 different places you can hunt, tell them exactly where, because if you did fall and get hurt, it would be nice for someone to know where you're at.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
We were talking before the show a little bit about the safety of when you're climbing up and you're bringing a bunch of stuff up with you. And we ran across a photograph when we were looking for some stock photos and things to show you guys what tree stands. We came across a photograph that's on one of the platforms, and your first declination was, don't do that. Can you
Yeah, actually, that was my next topic here, was when you're climbing up and down out of your trees, you know, don't try to carry your items with you, whether it be a bow or a gun or, you know, rattle bags or antlers or, you know, whatever, your pack. Just don't carry that up when you're climbing. Okay, use a pull-up rope. You know, that's why they make them, and the aid of a pull-up rope is just well worth it. Let me just tell this quick story. I'd mentioned earlier in the show that I had fallen out of a tree years ago, and that's because I was climbing down with my bow. Now, I typically didn't do this, but I was pulling my bow up, and my rope actually broke. And so I had to go down and get my bow. I climbed up with my bow. My bow fell to the ground, but I was climbing down with my bow and I had it on my shoulder. And as I was climbing down, when I put my right hand down to the next, you know, screw-in step, my Matthew slid off my shoulder, and I tried to grab it, not realizing I didn't have a hold with my left hand, and down I went. So when you're, you know, so don't do that. Use a pull-up rope. And when you're climbing up, it's important, whether you're using a ladder or screw-in steps or whatever it is, that, you know, you get, if you climb a ladder fast, you don't even realize it sometimes that you've let go with your left hand before you've got a hold of something with your right. Well, just take it slow when you're climbing up and make sure that you're not doing that. So you've always got a grip on something. And if you use the lifeline, like Mike and I were telling you earlier, you're not going to fall to the ground, and that's what ends up hurting you. So, Mike, there's some other things. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to add one thing to all this just before I forget, because it just popped up into my mind. One thing, and I'm sure you all deal with this in Iowa too. You all have ash trees, right?
We do have some.
Okay. Well, throughout the eastern part of the United States, we have what's called the emerald ash borer. And the reason I'm like an outdoor nut, so I know everything. But as you can see here in Kentucky, we do have Louisville Slugger baseball bats, and so I know a lot about ash trees. Well, the ash trees is what they made the baseball bats out of, and the bugs are killing the trees. And where I'm going with this is, when you're hanging that tree stand, don't just make sure your tree's good. Look around you. I mean, if you've noticed when you drive through Kentucky and even parts of Indiana, there's just skeletons of dead ash trees all down the highway. And those things can fall on you and kill you and won't show any sign. But if you're in the woods, early October, September, and everything's green, and you look up and you're like, well, that big leaning dead tree is leaning right towards me. Don't put your stand there, because that tree could fall at any time. You don't know. And I was going to add to that about you talking about making sure your tree's good. I hunted on Fort Knox one time, and I climbed up in the dark, and I was just climbing as normal. And I usually get between 25 and 30 feet. Had my safety harness on, and I'm just rolling up. And I get up, and I go to put my stand up, and there's like nothing there. The whole top of the tree was gone. It was just the stump, like 35 foot in the air, and the whole top was broke out of it. And it was like, wow, because it was a solid tree. It just, I guess, we had the high winds or something. But if I wasn't paying attention, I could have just lifted my stand right off the top of it. It's the craziest thing I ever seen.
And you mentioned, you can hang your tree stand at whatever height you feel comfortable hunting out of. Mike always, he gets on me a little bit. Some of my stands are a little bit high. They're not as high as I've been in trees before. I was filming Eddie Salter on a hunt in Ohio one year, and because of the tree, and it was low in the valley, and the deer were coming across this ridge up above us, believe it or not, I was 60 feet in the air, which is very, very uncomfortable for me. But I usually put my stands at about 20 feet. But if you want to put them lower, that's perfectly fine. Or if you want to go higher, that's perfectly fine too. One thing
I was going to say about the higher, a lot of people want to get higher to get their scent up off the ground, which is perfectly fine. Now, if you're gun hunting, you go as high as you want. But one thing that I've noticed, a lot of my buddies, I'm not going to mention your name, Brandon Hines, he likes to get up there 50 feet. Just normally, we'll be hunting and I'm filming him and he's 50 foot in a tree. Well, when you're shooting at that angle with bow and arrow equipment, if you got a deer that comes in at 15 or 20 yards, you're basically shooting straight up and down. So think about it. You hit him right behind the shoulder at that angle, there's a possibility you don't even hit an artery or the heart. It just goes straight down his side. So you want that perfect medium is at 20 to 25 feet where you still have a side angle, better penetration, and you're going to get through more stuff than at that steep angle. And my buddy, he does kill some booners, but he wounds a lot. So,
that's a tough angle. And I would add and say, 16 to 25 feet is right in there. Now, when you go to the woods, whether you're hanging stands or hunting, just a few items to make sure that you always have with you. And one item I think is important is a knife, especially when you're using climbers, in my opinion. And then always a phone. I mean, who doesn't go without a phone nowadays? I mean, we didn't have that option, back when I started hunting. There were no cell phones. And then a flashlight, I think, is a good item to make sure you have too. Sometimes people hang till it's pretty dark, and you want to be able to see what you're doing when you're climbing up and climbing down, that kind of thing. So, Mike, what else? What else can we add? I'm going to get into the special here pretty quick. I think we're got about 5 minutes left, but I mean, it's just be safe. Don't take any chances on anything, and I'm telling you right now, I know people I ask this in seminars, how many people hunt without some type of safety restraint? I always get some, first of all, nobody raises their hand. And I said, okay, now seriously, how many people? And then I get a few hands, you know, and there's no reason to. If you're not going to wear it for yourself, I always tell people, wear it for your loved ones. I mean, it's that important. Mike, hang on here for a minute. Let me go over our weekly special. We've got a weekly special this week, and it's another dandy for sure. But it is a Alpine Kodiaq 4x16 by 44 rifle scope. Okay, well, let me talk about it a little bit. Great HD glass. Okay, as with all the Alpine scopes, and it comes with rings and flip-up lens covers, which saves you, you know, $70 to $80 on those accessories there. Lifetime warranty. It's a great size, and it normally sells for, and I'm not using my cheaters here, $329.99. That's normal price. Okay, and again, this is the Alpine Kodiaq 4x16 by 44 rifle scope. Normally $329.99. The special this week, on the hunt special, 50% off, which brings it to $165. Scope, lifetime warranty. I mean, what? Can't go wrong. And it's a high power. It's a great rifle scope. Model number 2054. And if you're interested in this, all you have to do is really go to bresserusa.com or Alpine website. Go ahead and order that item number 2054, and there'll be a promo code, and just in that, just type in on the hunt, lower casing with no spacing, and you'll get 50% off. And that goes through Sunday, I believe, at midnight. So a great special. And I'm not 100% sure, but we had a camera special that was just on the website, and it was a buy one, get one free. And I believe that's still going on. And this is trail camera time, so check that out as well.
Yes, it's still available, actually.
Okay, good. It's still available, Mike. And I know you're going to be putting some trail cams up. In fact, you were out just before the show putting some up, and I've got several. I've only got a couple up right now, and I usually put up 10 to 15 different trail cameras. And the nice thing about our trail cams is not only are they very functionable and great quality, but they're easy to set up, and they're inexpensive. So you can go out and put up multiple cameras. I mean, and multiple cameras is what tells me more than anything else what's going on in the woods, because it lets me know what's going on in certain parts of the woods without me having to go in and disrupt it and walk around and look. And I know you use the cameras as well, and you seeing some good deer?
I'm seeing some good deer. I was going to say, I probably got more. Well, I'm going to say cameras. I probably have more cameras on Fort Knox than Fort Knox has on there. If somebody comes to the goat vault, I'm on them before they are, and I'm calling them.
Yeah, well, if you don't answer the phone tomorrow, I'll know where you're at. So
I'll never tell you.
Fort Knox jail is where you'll be. So let's sum it up. We got a minute left. The safety, most important thing. Take your time when you're hanging your stands and when you're climbing up and in and out of them. And if you don't feel comfortable in stands, Mike, they can hunt out of a what?
Ground blind.
And they're effective. They really are. So,
absolutely.
Well, Mike, man, the time's come and gone here pretty quick. I appreciate you helping us out and talking about what I feel is a really important thing. And I think we had some questions tonight, and I didn't even get a chance to really look over at my phone and answer them, but we'll answer them at a later date. And and I think I'll contact the folks at Hunter Safety System and see if maybe they'll donate one that we can give away on a future show. I bet they'll help us out. So, but anyway, Mike, thanks for being on the show, and
anytime.
We'll be on next Wednesday. I'll have a surprise guest because we're still working on we've got a couple of people. I'm just waiting to hear who's going to be on next week. So we'll let you know. But for now,
let's get one of those elk hunters. We need somebody to come on and teach us how to elk call.
Maybe I'll try to get Dieter. But anyways, hey, great show, Mike. Appreciate you being on. And folks, we appreciate you tuning in with us. And make sure you check us out next week, Wednesday evening, 6 to 6:30 on the Hunt with Alpine Optics. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpine Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars. Now, they're lighter than the older Shasta Ridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpine Shasta Ridge binoculars. Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpine Teton binoculars. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpine Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpine Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now.